My friends are my power. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
What up, nerds? Welcome back to Nerd Explosion, the weekly podcast are based on a monthly theme and nerd out about whatever we want. I'm Cameron.
Bienvenue, Power Bottoms.
Today, we are continuing. First of all, I want to state that I am kind of no longer sick. My voice is back to normal, but I still am kind of stuffed up, and
He's
I still
lying
have
to you.
a
He's still sick.
okay feelings hurt. Anyway,
You look like the Patrick sticker on the back of your phone.
I looked, yeah, literally. I have a sticker on the back of my phone. That's the if anyone remembers the episode of SpongeBob where what was it? Patrick was teaching him something, and then at one part where he's like, "Now you must acquire a taste for freeform jazz." It's just the pose he's in during that. Where he's just like, he's got his hand on his chin. He's just, but anyway, our theme is still unsolved mysteries, and for this episode, I kind of wanted to take it a little local this time. I wanted to get back to like actual true crime cases, and I wanted it to be a little more local for our home state of Minnesota.
Yes.
And instead of doing the normal follow this podcast, blah blah blah, whatever, I'm just gonna jump straight into it because honestly, I ran out of spoons today, so I just want to get right into this. These are going to be 10 unsolved mysteries from Minnesota. So, just from all over Minnesota. I'm sure there's a lot of them, but these are just 10 highlighted ones.
Which is so funny because my favorite thing to say is, I live in Minnesota. Nothing happens here. And I'm about to be proved wrong 10 times over.
Yeah, I was like, over the past, I want to say at least over the past 5 years, Minnesota has definitely been the epicenter of a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
But first, shall we just dive into the story? Let's get into the first one on here. These aren't too long, and I do want to preface this by saying that there are some
Trigger warnings?
Yeah, I just trigger warning because there are some sensitive topics that come up.
Also, I would like to preface
these.
and apologize up at the top because I know going in that these are unsolved mysteries, but the fact that they're going to have no resolution is going to piss me off.
And there are, for a lot of these, they have like phone numbers and like websites you could go to at the bottom of them, but I'm not going to list them off, but instead I will link this article in the description of the episode so that, if you're local and you know anything about this or you feel like you can help in any way, you have all the information right there. I could just put all the information in the description of the episode, but you know what? I'll just link the article so it's all there for you guys to peruse. Anyway, let's get into this first one. Number 10. Shot and killed with his own rifle, Terrence Terry Brisk.
I listened to a Crime Junkie episode about this. It might not have been Crime Junkie. It might have been The Deck. Either way, I listened to Ashley Flowers cover this case.
Terrence Terry Brisk was shot and killed on November 7th, 2016 with his own rifle. See, I told you. We're not even 4 minutes into this and you've already punched your microphone.
My bad, pimp.
Do you forget about the big, giant pink microphone that's in front of your face?
No.
Anyway, just doing your shit. Terrence Terry Brisk was shot and killed on November 7th, 2016 with his own rifle while deer hunting in Belle Prairie Township. Investigators believe, based on the evidence, that the shooter was physically close to Brisk at the time, meaning they must have interacted with each other. Maybe that could mean they knew each other prior to the homicide. The other scenario police say is likely is that the person was trespassing and Brisk confronted the person. Morrison County Sheriff's Office reported in March 2022 that they have received multiple tips of a blue van in the area at the time of Brisk's death. There was a tip that came in about this van early on. Police investigated, but nothing came from it. Now more and more people are reporting the same van, so it has come back up on the police's radar. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that it was more than likely trespassing confrontation.
It was a trespassing conversation, and somehow the trespasser got a hold of his gun.
Yes, and the reason I believe that is because Ashley had a very compelling point when she covered it in the episode, just like because she went into like the history of the area and stuff, and it just seemed like trespassing was the most likely solution.
Well, I suppose, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I mean, instead of just somebody close to him,
It's
just
a real
being
Occam's razor situation.
yeah, exactly. Next one on here. House set fire to cover up murder. April Sorensen.
Ooh, I don't know this one.
27-year-old April Sorensen's body was found inside her burning home on April 17th, 2007 in northwest Rochester. After an autopsy, they determined she was strangled and stabbed to death.
Damn.
Police believe the fire was started in an attempt to cover up any evidence. NBC writes that Sorensen was studied at NBC writes that Sorensen was studying at RCTC to become a dental hygienist. One of the police's first main suspects was her husband, Joshua, but he was cleared very quickly. Joshua worked for IBM in their tight security system to prove that he was at work during the murder. Yeah, I have known nothing about it, but yeah, that's very, very, very suspicious.
It's a little vicious. Yeah, unsolved cases piss me off because I feel like a lot of the times there's a lot of evidence, but you just can't make the pieces fit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe in this case, I would have to read more about it to be solidified in my opinion. But my armchair detective opinion is that it was because she was found in her home.
Yeah, she was found in her home.
So my armchair detective opinion that it was one of two things. Somebody she knew, or it was a home invasion gone wrong situation.
And they said it couldn't be the husband because he was cleared.
Yeah, so because IBM has massive tight security, and if they can prove that he was absolutely there, and there's no way he could have done it, then yeah.
I'll tell you some more. Oh god, that made the coffin worse.
Take a little sippy sip of my water.
The Sprite made it worse. Anyway. If I could stop dying here, I can continue on with the next story. Okay.
Water?
Now we reset.
Like Stan Smith undercover. Water?
Next on here. Attacked in her home. Evelyn Adams.
Oh, I don't think I know this one either. Look at you finding stuff I don't know about.
76-year-old Evelyn Adams was attacked by an intruder, or possibly two intruders, in her home in Mankato on February 23, 2019.
Oh, so this was relatively recent.
WCCO reports that her injuries, quote, didn't seem severe at first, but she died about 5 days after the attack. Evelyn was not able to identify the intruders because they had something covering their face. The Blue Earth County Sheriff's Office says that they are, quote, close to solving the case, but need to hear from the right person who knows the suspect's identity. And like I said, at the end of all of these, they have, like, if you have any information, please blah, 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 blah,
Call
blah.
this number, yeah.
Which like I said, I'll link in the description, so in case anybody does know anything, any listeners do know anything, you have it all right there. Thoughts? Before doing the next one? Use that true crime junkie brain of yours.
My true crime junkie brain. I would be curious to know. I would have to look into that case more deeply because I'm curious to know as to how, if her injuries weren't severe, what caused her death 5 days later.
Next one. Funeral drive-by shooting. Seneca George James.
That sounds vaguely familiar, actually.
Senator George James was attending a memorial of a friend who died 3 years prior in the same location as a result of a shooting. At the memorial, a vehicle pulled up and the people in the vehicle started shooting at everyone. James was shot while pushing kids out of the way. Fox 9 reports he was rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. The person who murdered James' friend was in jail at the time, and still is. He's serving life in prison without the possibility of parole. So he was not part of the shooting. So it might have been somebody who, now this is my thought on it. If it wasn't the guy who shot his friend, maybe it's somebody who's either friends with the shooter or somebody who, like, felt like the shooter needed to get revenge even though the shooter had nothing to do with it. Like, it's one of those cases where somebody, like, performs a crime for somebody, but that somebody doesn't even know.
It definitely feels like a gang retaliation situation.
Yeah, something like that.
Or not necessarily gang retaliation, but just, like, retaliation in general.
Yeah.
I hear drive-by and I think gang.
Well, yeah, because I mean...
Which is probably not a fair assumption.
Because I feel like if you're going to do a drive-by, there has to be some meaning behind it. Like, you don't just drive by just to drive by.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I know it's kind of stereotypical a little bit, but most drive-bys you hear of...
the hood.
Most drive-bys you hear of do have some kind of gang affiliation.
All my years spent in the hood, I don't know much about how dates work.
In the hood?
I say as a white man who grew up in the suburbs.
As a white man who grew up in suburbia?
Next one on here. Body found in a ditch. Rachel Anthony.
Ooh, I heard about this one.
On February 27th, 2001, Rachel Anthony was closing up the store she worked at in Pine River called Ultimate Liquors. It was a cold night, negative 19 degrees. We call that a Tuesday. So she went out and started her car just before she finished up closing. Crime Stoppers in Minnesota writes that at about 1 a.m. on February 28th, 2001, Pine River police found Rachel's car still running in front of the business, but she was not inside. All of her belongings, including her purse, were still inside the business, and it didn't look like any money was stolen from the cash register or any items were stolen from the store. Then on April 13th, 2001, horseback riders in Breezy Point found Anthony's body in a ditch. She died due to asphyxia from homicidal violence. Investigators figured out that the last transaction of the night was made at 5:57 p.m. The person purchased Mickey's Malt Liquor and Cool Cigarettes, KOOL.
Cool brand.
Whoever made this purchase is a person of interest.
Well, yeah, considering that was the last transaction, so more than likely the last person to see her alive, if not her killer.
Oh, yeah, sir, what did you buy that night? Oh, I just bought some liquor and some cigarettes. That's something a murderer would say.
What brand of cigarette?
I didn't murder her. That's exactly what a murderer would say.
Right.
Next one. If I don't come back, come and look for me. Hang Lee. 17-year-old Hang Lee of St. Paul went missing on January 12th, 1993. The Charlie Project writes that while she was leaving her house that day, Hang told her brother, "If I don't come back, come and look for me." Hang met up with her friend Tia Nitty Lee, and met up with Nitty's boss, Mark Stephen Wallace. Hang was interviewing for a job at Wallace's business. It appears both girls got in his car. He first dropped off Nitty, then drove off with Hang, and that was the last time she was seen. Wallace was supposed to bring Hang home, but she never arrived. Nitty is the first interesting person that I want to talk about. When she was talking to the police about the disappearance of Hang, at first she said Hang went off with some unidentified man, but then changed her story and said they met up with her boss, Wallace. The next weird thing that Nitty did was at first she told investigators that Wallace was driving a white pickup, but then changed it to a tan or silver 1988 Chevrolet Cavalier. Weird. Why would she be changing her story so much? Was she involved? But the person that's more likely to be involved is Mark Stephen Wallace, and he is the prime suspect. The Charlie Project writes that Wallace has been convicted of 2 particularly violent rapes committed in 1987, and is also a suspect in other sex crimes. Also, in 2016, prosecutors charged him with kidnapping and stalking a woman who investigators say they found being held against a wall by Mark in a hotel room, according to KSTP. Not only is that yet another unsettling crime he committed, but the woman who was there also told investigators that Wallace had told her about a St. Paul woman he had murdered. The victim told investigators Wallace had said, "She entered my business and never came out." Wallace has not been convinced of the disappearance of Han Lee. Well, that's why I read it as convinced, because it might be convicted. Thoughts?
He definitely did something to her, for sure. And I think the friend, quote unquote, is involved somehow.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to go with, too. Alright, let's go on to this next one, and I'm going to try not to get too noisy with it, because I currently have a cough drop in my mouth because I'm, tired of dying. And just trigger warning, this one deals with some sensitive shit. Raped and strangled in her home. Susan Sales.
Oh, I know this one too.
24-year-old Susan Sales was raped and strangled in her apartment in Minneapolis in May of 1979. Susan grew up in Austin, then decided to move to the Twin Cities. She met a dentist, fell in love, and was planning on moving to Fargo to be with him. She was working as a receptionist at the University of Minnesota School of Dentistry at the time of her murder. Suzanne had just spoken to her mother about an hour before the murder. When she didn't show up to work the next day, her best friend and a coworker stopped by Susan's apartment and made the horrible discovery. This is currently a cold case.
Like ice cold, from what I understand.
They still have
very
no
little
idea.
evidence. They have no persons of interest.
It's so weird. It's so weird to me. A lot of these cold cases from years ago, like 30-something, 40 years have passed and nothing. Crazy how that works.
I mean, there's still people who disappear without a trace, like simply vanished into thin air.
Yeah, I heard a guy about Pedro. He was a Spanish magician. He was performing a magic trick, and he said, "Ready? Uno, dos," and then poof, he was gone without a trace.
I'm glad you think you're funny.
Oh my god.
So no, it's like my favorite missing persons case to dive into, because like there has to be an answer. But Bryceless Pizza,
yeah, we talked about that one last year. I believe.
Because it's mind-boggling.
Look out the window any louder, Dorian. Jesus Christ.
Leave him.
I don't know if the microphone actually put that up, but yeah, he bursted through the blinds with a goddamn mission.
Yeah, these cats do everything. Like, they're fucking with the feds, and they have warrants.
Dora's just like, "Oh, I want to look out the window." Poof. Next one. Beaten and hidden. Cindy Elias. Well, as Kate punches her microphone once again.
I'm above tootin', baby. I'm a punch of your buns.
Cindy Elias was murdered in the early hours of May 24th, 1997. NBC News reports that Elias was 19 at the time and had been partying at a bar with friends. At the end of the night, she was looking for a ride and had mentioned she might try to hitchhike. Hours later, about 8 miles north of Aurora and 30 minutes from where she was partying, her beaten body was found just off of a logging road under a pile of brush. Investigators believe whoever did this knew the area based on where they found Elias's body. This is one of the oldest cold cases in Minnesota, but investigators are still hoping to find the killer. They're hoping current technology will help them make new discoveries.
Well, that's just it, though. With the new technology, like a lot of these, I feel like could be solved.
Next on this list, I think just from the title alone, I think this one's going to make me sad a little. Baby found in water. Baby Angel.
Aww.
On September 5th, 2011, Sharon Forst and her family were boating on the Mississippi River in the Winona area when her son Josh, who was 14 at the time, spotted a baby in the water. They quickly pulled her out and tried to perform CPR, but nothing worked. The family spoke to KTTC about finding the baby that's now known as Baby Angel. Josh said her hands were up, lying there as if someone had set her there. Baby Angel was a newborn baby girl with an unclamped umbilical cord. The Bureau of Criminal Apprehension believes the mother gave unassisted and unattended birth. With Baby Angel were a bracelet and 3 angel figurines. Those figurines were how she got her name. They're hoping with new technology they'll be able to do DNA tests and at least find a distant relative of hers. There's an update to this. Thanks to forensic genealogy, investigators are working on piecing together Baby Angel's family tree and hoping they can find a relative.
Gotta love forensic genealogy.
That's just really sad that, like, a newborn baby was just gone.
Cases like that always, like, not to get too heavy and deep, but given our situation, cases like that always hit me a little harder. Because, like, there are so many parents out there who want to adopt or who want to have kids and can't. Like, there's so many options. Well, and that poor mother probably just... The fact that there was a bracelet and angel figurines left there tells me that she cared at least a little bit, but she did what she thought she had to, which leads me to believe that her home situation probably isn't that great.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for it. Don't misunderstand me. That there's still you can leave the baby. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure you can still leave. Like, I hate the term abandoned, but that's what you're doing. Like at the firehouse or at hospitals or something, like you can still surrender babies there. You don't have to leave them in the water.
The last one on here. Double murder. Mary and Suzanne Recker.
Ooh, okay.
The double murder of Mary and Suzanne Recker happened on Labor Day in 1974 in St. Cloud. The sisters had gone out school supply shopping, according to Fox 9. Later, the sisters' bodies were found riddled with stab wounds in Quarry Park. It looks like there have been 2 solid suspects in the past few years.
Okay.
One was Herb Notch, who is the girl's mom. One was Herb Notch, who the girl's mom, Rita Reck, went and confronted on his deathbed. The other is Lloyd Welch, who had attacked a different girl in the same area and in a similar way just a few days before Mary and Suzanne. Thoughts?
Seems like Lloyd is a strong suspect.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Lloyd might be the guilty one here, or at least he might know a little something.
Especially since he attacked somebody the couple days before.
That's number 3. Research, you're up.
Especially since he attacked a girl a couple days before and in the same with the same modus operandi.
Yeah. Overall, thoughts, feelings, any
unsolved cases piss me the fuck off.
Is there any that you know of that you wanna touch on real quick?
Like specifically Minnesota or just unsolved mysteries?
Well, specifically Minnesota, because that kind of is the topic of the episode. If you were paying attention.
I don't know of any off the top of my head, but I will say just a real quick shout out to our listener base. Ashley Flowers, who does the podcast Crime Junkie, does another podcast called The Deck, and each week she covers an unsolved case. And it's called The Deck because what they do is they make for prisoners, they make playing cards, and each playing card, so like the Queen of Hearts, for example, would be like Jane Doe from Davenport, Louisiana, and it would just be like a little blurb about her case. And they've actually solved like a bunch of cases this way because inmates would be like, oh yeah, actually I know a guy that said that, because there's no honor among criminals.
It kind of reminds me of a thing on TikTok from a while ago. It was like an audio of like some guys or whatever talking about serial killer trading cards.
I'll trade you a Gacy for
Jeffrey Dahmer.
I absolutely would collect serial killer playing cards.
Whoa, is that a rare Charles Manson?
But yeah, anyway, check it out. It's very interesting.
Charles Manson wasn't a serial killer, though. He was just a cult leader.
A cult leader. Well, cult leader. I don't consider Manson a cult leader in the traditional sense. He was just a manipulative prick.
I mean, that's what most cult leaders are.
Well, yeah, but like, when I think of a cult leader, I think of like Jonestown or fucking Sherry, what's her face?
Yes, Sherry, what's her face?
Sherry Shriner
from the what's her face clan. Anyway, yeah, that's a bunch of the cases. This episode is going to be kind of shorter after I edit everything, but I'm currently dying right now, so
also just as a
kind of wanted to keep it shorter.
Also, just as another, like, whatever, you can always call Crime Stoppers or go to their website and submit an anonymous. It's 100% anonymous if you know something about something and you're afraid, because, you know, who wouldn't be?
Yeah, and like I said, I'll link this same article I'm reading off.
If you see something, say something.
I'll link the same article I'm reading off in the description, so in case anybody knows anything, all the stuff and like numbers and websites and stuff are like right there.
Also, if you don't think the thing that you know, like if you saw something that seems kind of minor, but it's stuck in your head as weird or whatever, report it anyway, because you never, ever, ever, ever know. Like, that might just be the missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, little word of advice from us here at Nerdsplosion. Stay safe for that.
Stay safe out there, kids. Be weird,
That's what I
be
tried to
rude,
say.
stay alive.
But with that, that's gonna be this episode. I have no idea what we're going to talk about next week, but you know, when do I ever? Just kind of do this shit and you just kind of make it up on the spot.
To be honest, we go in half-cocked most weeks.
It's like, oh, what's your plan for the next episode? I don't know.
We'll figure it out when we get there.
But
honestly, we record Wednesday, so Tuesday nights he's like scrounging for stuff.
Either that or the day of. I'm just like, this thing. But
we make it work. We have a good time.
Anyway, that'll be the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. You know, stay safe out there. You know, stay hydrated. Do positive things. Be nice to one another. I swear to God, or I will call your grandmothers.
Spread love, not hate.
I've been Cameron.
And if you're gonna hate like 50 Cent and Kendrick Lamar. Start a revolution.
A revolution about to be televised. You picked the right time but the wrong guy.
Oh, can we talk about that fucking performance?
We can talk about it later. We're about to end the episode.
Masterpiece. This man's out here playing 4D chess.
I've been Cameron.
I've been Kate.
And as always, we'll see you in the next one.
Nerds out.